Today, we're going to calculate the individual daily risk from the 4S trial and also calculate the daily probability of being saved. The 4S trial was published in 1994 in The Lancet, and it was a big deal. It offered a treatment for patients with coronary artery disease. By lowering their cholesterol with a statin drug, it showed we could save lives. Here's an actual photo of the article. I love these old photos. This is how we used to electronically reproduce a journal article like this. It's just a Xerox. You can tell it's a little cattywampus. You get to see the original font in the Lancet. They used to print medical journals with ink on paper. There it is for you to take a look at. I used to carry a copy of this in my white coat pocket as a medical student. Here's a quick summary of what these researchers did. They found 4,444 patients over there in Scandinavia, and they randomized them to get placebo or simvastatin, a new drug to lower cholesterol. The patients were between 35 and 70 years old and had some kind of coronary artery disease. They watched them for 5.4 years, and they measured their mortality, who lived and who died. In the placebo group, the patients that got a sugar pill, 12% of them died over the median follow-up time. And among patients who took simvastatin, a lower 8% of patients died. This is my favorite figure in any randomized controlled trial. It's called all-cause mortality. That means it doesn't matter what you died from. They're going to keep track of who lived and who died. In the 4S trial, they watched the patients in this Kaplan-Meier curve over up to 6 years. The solid line is patients who received simvastatin. Some did die, but they died at a slower rate than the patients who received placebo. In order to calculate the individual daily risk in the two arms of this trial, we need to draw 3 lines. The first vertical line goes at some years or duration of the trial, and the 2 other lines just mark off the proportion alive in the 2 groups at that time. So you can see all we're doing here is extracting a number from the figure. These numbers were available to the people who drew this graph, but because we don't have those original numbers, that original spreadsheet, we have to extract the numbers back out of this Kaplan-Meier curve. Next, we're going to use a little modern technology and zoom in on these 2 lines. We haven't changed the lines. We're not doing any magic. We're not even doing any math. We're just expanding, blowing up the y-axis of this Kaplan-Meier curve so we can get a little more accurate number for the proportion alive in the 2 groups. Now we're going to use the individual daily risk equation. If you want to see how this was derived, you have to buy the book. It's too complicated. But it'll make sense. It's just dice throw statistics, stuff that a high school student or college freshman would learn in statistics class. Nothing complicated. Due to my laziness, I no longer calculate this stuff by hand. I built a little code in a program called Pythonista that sits on my iPad. And I put the numbers in, the proportion of live numbers, and the 1825 days. And it takes 0.00001 second, and it delivers these results. Here are the same results in a little chart. After 1,825 days, the proportion alive in the placebo group was 0.905, which is an individual daily risk of 18,283, which means the patients in the placebo arm of this trial, on average, each day faced a 1 in 18,283 chance of dying. The patients in the simvastatin group had a slightly lower daily risk of dying of 1 in 24,423. Next, we use the 2 individual daily risk numbers to calculate the daily probability of being saved. I won't go into how I derived this equation. You can read the book and check it out there if you like. After all this calculating, we end up with this very simple table. The patients who took simvastatin instead of placebo had a daily probability of having their life saved of 1 in 72,724. So each day, if you took simvastatin, you might have your life saved by virtue of the fact that you took that medicine. It wasn't a high chance, but it was a chance. 1 in 72,724. How likely or unlikely is it to have your life saved each day on any one day because you took simvastatin instead of the placebo? Well, it's about the same odds as flipping a coin 16 times in a row and having it come up heads every single time, which I welcome you to start flipping a coin right now and see if it takes you about 70,000 tries to get this to happen. But mathematically, it's true. So this is the cool part of this whole project. On the left is a simulation that I ran on an iPad on a Python program called Pythonista. And that program used two numbers only. The individual daily risk for placebo of 18,283 and the individual daily risk for simvastatin of 24,423 and a random number generator. I didn't have any patients. I didn't run a clinic. There were no medicines. There's no blinding. There's no research protocol, nothing. Just a little software running on my iPad. It takes about 60 seconds to run this simulation. Now you'll notice when we compare those results to the actual trial on the right, on the one hand, it's not exactly the same. Okay, I'll give you that. But look at what is the same. On day 0, 100% of both groups are alive. And on day 6 years out there, just about exactly the same number of patients are shown to still be alive. The proportion alive is exactly the same. And that's the miracle of this individual daily risk calculation, is it allows you to simulate, to recreate a randomized controlled trial on your iPad, because the math involved, which I'm not showing you in this slideshow, is actually imitating nature. If you want to find me, I'm available. You can reach out, send me a message, whatever you want. The book is available on Amazon. I put the link on there. And you can see how I derived these numbers, this mathematics. It's all based on dice roll statistics, simple board game kind of statistics, nothing complicated. And on this YouTube channel, I'm going to continue to calculate the individual daily risk of big randomized controlled trials that have already been done. And time after time, it's going to be just like this. I'm just going to calculate the individual daily risk for the two arms of the trial. And then I'm going to calculate the daily probability of being saved. And then I'm going to run a Python simulation of the trial to show how closely, or not closely, the results match what happened in real life. And over time, we'll get into some philosophical questions that are raised by this new math. Thanks for watching.